till I'm on top.
Yo, no, I ain't the type to give up. If I do something, man, I do it till I get what I want.
Hey guys, Coach Dan here. I've been lifting for over 20 years. I hold a degree in exercise and sports science, and I've been coaching others for 10 plus years. On this channel, we're all about evidence-based muscle growth or hypertrophy training. In today's video, we're going to go through workout number 2 for the week, which is lower body, and lateral delts number 1 for the week. I'm going to show you what I do, explain why I do it, and show you exactly how to execute so you can apply to your own training. We've got the bangers going on in here this morning. It's early morning, there's no one else in here, but the music is cranking for some reason. So workout number 2 for the week. Started yesterday with a nice little upper body session, so we keep that momentum going into today. We start with the lateral delt machine. Even though this is a lower body workout, I'm putting my lateral delt volume on my lower body days such that it is away from my upper body training, and it kind of just allows for a little more spread of the volume that I've got. If I put, I'm going to do 5 sets on here today. If I put that on my upper body day, the session will be massive. On this day, it's pretty reasonable. So all in all, we are going well with this new setup. We've gone from a push, lower, pull split to a upper, lower split. So we're reducing a rest day, but we are able to then get 3 sessions in per week per muscle group. So we can kind of move volume around, like I said, to what is most important or what needs more volume versus just having a push day and putting a whole bunch of work into those muscles. If they don't need it, I don't need a whole push day for them basically. So, all right, we start off with the lateral delts, get the juices flowing a little bit. I've got this Gym Leco machine lateral raise. One of the considerations I've been making on here recently is where to kind of stand. So I don't really want to be right in here for this particular variation. I kind of want to be a little bit away, but not so far away that I have to really reach out for it. So finding that kind of spot in between, grabbing the edge, raising up, control the down, raising up. Bada bing, bada boom. We're here for 5 sets. It's almost like a buy-in before we get into the lower body stuff. This is part of the build-up to the, what do they call it in the movie world? I'll think of it here in a second. Climax. This is the build-up to the climax. All right, let's hit set number 1. Bit of an unusual way to start a lower body session with some lateral delt raises, but for me, that, as far as efficiency, programming, time, all that kind of stuff goes, makes sense. The lateral delt versus kind of the anterior delt, the chest, all that kind of stuff, they're kind of bringing your arm across there like that. The lateral delt kind of sits on its own, even the back is, or the rear part of the delt's bringing your arm like that. The lateral delt kind of brings your arm out in these kind of positions, so hopefully we can get away with doing that on the lower body day. I think, so there's 5 sets of that. On a lower body day today, I do 3 here, 3 squats, that's 6, 2 glutes, that's 8, 2 adductions, that's 10, and then maybe a superset of calves and abs, I can't remember exactly. So that's like 13 to 16 sets, depending on how you count that superset. On my upper body day, I've already got 19 sets. So if I put the lateral delts on that day, that would be 24 sets. On this day, there would only be 13 to 16 sets. So hopefully I can get away with it. I mean, so far I did better on my performance than last week on that one there. So that's a good sign. And yeah, as long as we are making good performance, recovery feels okay. The lateral delts don't seem to get too sore for me. So we shall see with time. Okay, let's head into the lower body portion. We're now moving closer towards the climax, which is coming up next. So this is a seated hamstring curl. So some key considerations for the hamstring curl and the seated version particularly. Probably trying to keep that up as high as your flexibility and mobility will allow. The seated version of this gets us into that hamstring stretch position, and that stretch or lengthen position of the muscle seems to be worthwhile for muscle growth. So different from a seated position where you are like a lying position, where you're face down and you're bringing your heels towards your butt. You're now seated here. And the reason that gets you an increased stretch is that a lot of the hamstring muscle, there's 3 heads to the hamstring muscle, a lot of it passes both the knee and the hip joint. So a straight leg is a stretched out hamstring, but also getting the hip into this position, a flexed hip, gets us that extra stretch. So we're getting to a more lengthened position. There's a bit of direct research on lying hamstring curl versus seated hamstring curl as far as effectiveness for muscle growth of the hamstring, and the seated hamstring curl won out in that kind of scenario. Again, that's not to say the lying hamstring curl has no place. It's just a consideration that potentially if you had to choose one, which we don't, you choose this one for hamstring. The lying version seems to have a more effectiveness for some other muscles, such as the sartorius, which is kind of a groin-ish, or is it sartorius, gracilis, one of the inner thigh, I don't exactly recall. So with that in mind, that's just something to keep in mind. I still use the lying hamstring curl. I think it's still a worthwhile variation. If this one stops progressing or starts feeling ineffective, you've always got that as an option if you can only do one at one time. Anyway, this up nice and high on the ankle, so we get into a nice stretch position. This clamps down nice and low, so we are locked in. From there, heels to the butt pretty aggressively. Control the up phase, gentle tap, heels down. Stretch. And that's that. So I like to do this these days before my heavy compound squatting movement, almost as a bit of a warm-up. And yes. All right, let's get to our weight and smash them out. All right, next up, this is probably what you would call the main event, the climax, the main course. Up until now, we've had a couple of hors d'oeuvres, and now it's time to hit the main course, right? The big steak, the seafood platter, the pasta dish, the lasagna, the big unit for the day. So this is categorically, I think they call these, well, not categorically, just the general machine name, I think these are called the power squat. So we've got this squatting machine, which works on like a hinge or a lever. So you can see over there, I think, that there is a hinge point. You've got these two weight horns here. So the weight horns are going to allow essentially me to load different parts of the movement. So if I add weight to this and you think about when I go down into a squat, If this is the hinge point over here, I'll sink down, and that's going to be directly out or close to directly out from the hinge point. As I continue the squatting movement, it kind of goes back towards or over the top of the hinge point. And you think about, so hinges, if you think about this as a hinge point like this, if something was sitting directly on the hinge point, it would just kind of stay there pretty much. It would kind of eventually sort of fall down in arc direction. But ultimately what I'm trying to say is that this will start off hard because this will be directly out from the hinge point, and it's getting easier as the move goes on. So that can be an advantage. Again, training the muscle in a lengthened position can have some value, or seems to have some value, as well as making it hard in that lengthened position. If that's the most valuable part of the movement, potentially, right, not conclusively, potentially, then making it hard in that position potentially has some merit. So with all that said, we're trying to make it hard in the beginning and get easier. And that, again, that's not conclusive. There's a pendulum squat right next to me here. I do that on another day. I think, there's a time and a place to make it really hard in the stretch, and then every now and again it might be worthwhile making it not as hard in the stretch to reduce some load off of joints and stuff like that in the hardest position. In short, or in a vacuum, maybe I'd be leaning towards things like this. But if we look at the whole training program, the whole training career, the person in a whole, I think both have some value. And that's a pretty nuanced approach for me. I think when things come out as being popular, people jump on it and it's like, that is the thing, you only do that. But that's never really the case. There's often like a large range and lots of grey area and stuff like that. Anyway, all that said, I've got this little block here for underneath my feet. I don't know if I absolutely need that, but again, being I think people call themselves short kings to make themselves bigger. Being shorter, that just helps with range of motion. But we step under, we lock in, get the shoulder pads comfy, up, handles in, control the descent, trying to stay nice and upright. So that upright posture, again, we're allowing lots of knee flexion, but we're not hinging over as far, trying to make this a quad dominant movement, not as much glutes. If I wanted it to make glutes, I would hinge further forward. I'd get a variation where I probably had a wider stance, get a lot more hip flexion to use that. But for me, this is a quad dominant movement, so make it as quad dominant as possible. Now, in this scenario, in this exercise, if you don't have this machine, I don't even think this machine is made anymore for this particular brand. Anyway, the version I think that is current and popular is called the Rogers, maybe it's a lever squat, maybe it still is quarter power squat, but you don't get them anywhere. I think in place of this, I before have done hack squats, back squats, Smith machine squats, leg press, things of that nature. So those are easy little subs for you. All right, let's get our weight on there and let's smash it out. Oh, so something I do on this that is pretty tough, and it's a unique protocol. So set number 1 here for me is a heavy set. It's going to be about 6 to 8 reps, so that's heavy for me, right? After that, I'm going to do a set where I drop the load and go about 8 to 15 reps. Now, after that 8 to 15 rep set 2, I'm going to do what's called a drop set, which is I'm going to walk over to each side, take off some weight, and then pretty much as soon as I've done that, walk back in here and start the next set. So we've got an intensity technique here called a drop set, which increases the intensity, also adds an extra difficult set within a short duration. So it's not super time consuming, it's hard. I quite like it because you really feel your quads, and it really feels quite intense for what we want, or you just get the sensation that the muscles that we are trying to work have worked really hard. So when you do heavy weights, sometimes it just feels really heavy. For this, you get that pump, you get that burn, you get those sensations that are like, you have fucked this muscle up, which gives you good feedback. All right, enough shit talk from me. Let's hit the climax. workout up until now. Check out that hardcore signage, train hard or go home, no pain, no gain. So what you'll often find me do is I'm always sort of checking in on my program, and I've got this here for me to kind of refer back to at all stages. So I've got my exercises, I've got my whole week, I've got my exercises for today, rep range, all this kind of stuff, sets, all sort of there ready for me to go. So what this means for me is not only do I know I'm making progress or not, but it also makes it easier each time I come to the exercise. I've got notes over in this section here for setup and whatnot. So I'm always really able to move to my next exercise real quickly. And then we've got this training archive, what I did from last week. So I can always sort of know where I'm at, what weights I need to hit for the upcoming week. So definitely worthwhile having that kind of information there. It makes training a lot smoother. As we head into the glute kickback machine, check out that nice little hole on the pants. So something that I have done recently is change my setup position, where I've changed my foot slightly angled out, and this has allowed me to feel my glute a little bit more. Last week I was feeling my hamstring, and that subtle change in foot position has allowed me to kind of feel my glute a little bit better. If we think about the anatomy of the glute, it's kind of attaching side on, so it does help with abducting or sort of rotating the hip a little bit. So aiming the foot out might aid in sort of that kind of action. So we go hip thrust, you get a nice little glimpse of the padonkadonk, or dump truck if the kids are still calling that. Now, a big consideration for this one for me is, will I keep doing it? It feels okay. I don't really love it. And I know what I've got waiting in the wings is a really favorite exercise for me, which is the Smith machine hip thrust. So I tried this at this gym, this Atlantis kickback machine, because I find that the kickback machines are often not very good. They don't really allow a great range of motion, but this one is good in that sense. You can see my funky setup while I put my head down on the pad. And what that allows me to do is get extra hip flexion, so hopefully extra glute stretch. You'll see a side-on action here in a second. So that head on the pad, trying to get that glute that hip as flexed as possible to stretch the glute out as far as possible. But yeah, all in all, it felt pretty effective. But I tell you what, at this stage I was also knackered. So the idea of doing 2 legs, even that was kind of getting me a little bit. Well, I was a bit tired and sort of over it by that stage, so might be considering changing that one out. It's good to try, but again, maybe not for long term. Now we head into the machine adduction. So this was actually a really good workout across the board, and I'm really happy with the performance. I'm really happy with how my energy levels were. Everything felt really good. So now we've kind of got, this is week 2 of this program. Now we've got time to progress. We've got our base weights, we've got setups for most machines, and now it's just about trying to progress as much as possible, keep our food on track, keep our recovery on track, and then start to push the numbers forward or push the notebook forward. Machine adduction, not too much to this machine. I think one of the tips for this one is just to lean back on the chest pad, because that might help stretch out the adductors that little bit more as their hip flexes. So extending the hip or leaning back on this machine is probably the only little tip there I've had for this one. Other than that, pretty good. This is a Cybex machine, so yeah, felt good, felt smooth. So programming at the moment, we're going upper, lower split, and I'm finding this quite fun and enjoyable. It's new to me. I've never really ever done this before, and it's just a matter of sort of making sure we're not overdoing anything, so adding too much volume and only having 48 hours to recover. And it's just, yeah, some muscle groups I can kind of add more volume to, others require less. So this is a really good strategy for divvying that up. All right, next up, we're superset to finish off a GHD crunch or sit-up. I use a little dumbbell here. Tips here for this one is kind of line that pad of the GHD up with the lower back such that it stretches the abs. So when I roll over that pad, essentially what that's doing is taking the lower back, or essentially the bottom of your sternum, and taking it away from your pelvis, hopefully stretching the abs. And then on the way up, we do the opposite. Now, you do sit-ups on the ground. There can often be a big chunk of hip flexion, and we don't want to train hip flexors, we want to train abs. So simply rolling it out over the pad and then contracting over that pad is pretty helpful for that. And yeah, I think this one's really effective. The dumbbell kind of adds intensity without having to do thousands of reps. I make sure I keep that dumbbell right on my chin such that it is consistent each time, because as it gets closer to your midline or the hip or whatever it might be, it will make it easier. And then we walk straight over to the calf raise. This is a Rotary calf raise, really interesting machine. This is Cybex again, and it only really, you'll see here in a second that it's the platform that kind of rotates. So yeah, quite a unique sensation where that foot pedal, that is the thing rotating. So that's quite unique. Feels effective, feels really good. So we keep doing it, we keep trying to progress. And yeah, that's the workout. Really good lower body session. Lateral delts there sprinkled in at the beginning. So we keep going on. We've got another upper body tomorrow. And again, it's just about making progress where possible, or checking if we are making progress. And if we are not, we change. If we are, we keep riding that wave. All right, that about does it for me, guys. As always, it's about progress over perfection. Coach Dan, signing off.